What is self-awareness? Does anybody understand that? Chronologically speaking, how I speak, it's not what I say, it's how I say it. My body is not a reaction line. It's a connections allows of a response. Take a moment and try to recognize that. Try to say that my body is it's energy, but it's not the energy, it's a energy. You're not the, you're a. So if you're an A, what is B through C? Well, what's D through E if I don't understand F? What's G through H if I don't understand I? What's I through J if I don't understand K? What's K through L if I don't understand M? What's M through N if I don't understand O? What's O through P if I don't understand Q? What's R through S if I don't understand T? What's T through U if I don't understand Y? What is X through Y condition setting and Y line interference of Z if I don't understand anything of its alphabet? You see what I did there in position location, the alphabet, set location, line condition setting, being self-aware of everything through its self-awareness of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, guys. You have to tune in to your body through frequency now, okay? You have your soul and you have your oversoul together as one. Understand your connections to your Dalai Lamas, your mantras. Your calculation line is your Buddha. The calculation setting to its system location to your system, how to use your light language, setting that correlation setting, ground lines, communications, operation cycles, generates screen line, spectrum, correlation lines, light track interference. I just keep going on and on and on and on and on. But how am I doing it from inside? How do I do that? Self-awareness. Am I self-aware I'm wearing a watch? Yep. Is it self-aware of its own system? Yep. Is it scanning my own system? Yep. Is it setting up its own program? Yep. So as soon as you look at the watch, you're addressing the watch. You're communicating with the watch. So it's in its own process until you address it. Now I'm looking back at you. The watch doesn't exist until I'm looking at it. It's in its own data, its own space, its own time. And I have to appreciate that it's in its own self-awareness of its own data that's processing me, that's scanning me, that's seeing me, that's communicating with me. It's self-aware, okay? And you already know what it is through its identity of its purpose and its existence is to wear a watch. And that's what it is. It's just a watch and nothing else. Now, if you understand what Bruce Lee was talking about, it's not for you to understand the book. That book is not to understand the book, what he wrote. It's about you understanding you, not what he wrote. That's a whole understanding the anatomy of the body itself. The body itself, not the body, a body. So you're not in control with your body until you understand the body is its own self-awareness of its own body. You have to build a friendship and a relationship with the position alignments and settings and realize, wow, this is very powerful. I have to connect with my body, realize it's a body, not the body. There's no the of anything. Okay, it's a body. It's a vessel of communication, nothing else. Now, once you recognize the body itself that's inside you is self-aware of where it is. Okay, it has its own awareness and its own consciousness now. So what is that in track location? It has the male and the female cycle. Soul, identification, oversoul. Has the pause and negative. Okay? Has the light and dark. Has the inner core, the outer core. Inner realm, inner space, outer space. Inner orbits, outer orbits. Everything's in. Everything's out. Right? So it's very important you understand how to work with the inner cycles of the outer cycles. Inner realms to the outer realms. And then you realize everything you see around you has its own self-awareness of what it is, of its own consciousness. Okay? And you've got to get tuned in with your frequencies now, especially when you communicate to your settings and applications. All right? All right. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? We got a position location test review and evaluation. So we're going to get into that setting locations calculation. Questions or comments, leave after for Q&A in that position locations. If you're new, congratulations, welcome. Just in line interference, don't communicate through settings because you're not near telepathy wave lines. The team can help you out in form and position, but please identify your system when you come on my live, okay? Okay, so that's one track provision line cycles, generation, screen interference, adaptation line calculation cycles. But sir, it just looks like a line. How does that become what you just said? Because it's self-aware of its own system. It's self-conscious of its own system. It's self-awareness of its own setting, of its awareness of consciousness. So, sir, if I add a circle line communication to grounds and add a circle line communication of magnetic high information cycle and position location, getting in all communication of setting position of its program, center course setting line interference of flywheel track location line condition setting, and line rotation surface, and track communication of system and travel. Self-awareness of what I'm drawing. If I'm self-aware, I'm aware. If I'm not self-aware, I'm not consciously aware. So you have to really understand how this works with your system. So it's you connecting with you and always informs. But what you have to understand, you are self-aware that you exist, but everything around you doesn't exist until you address it. And when you address it, now it's self-aware of its own system that's looking at you through self-awareness. So you're connecting with its operation of its space and its own time. It's like interrupting somebody when they're talking to somebody else. They're having a conversation with your phones. They're having a conversation with computers. They're having a conversation with everything all at once. And that's what your phones do. That's what your computers do. And that's what everything around you is. But you have to be self-aware of everything around you. You first. And then you realize everything around you is its awareness of its consciousness, everything in that settings, in set locations. All right? And position attraction. All right? So we got a center core line split. Now, a position of team center has one center core sending attraction. Sets lines and triangulation line conditions settings, splits the anomalies, right? So we're going to allocate lines of a VR code into line position of programs. Center core settings, center core line rotation and travels and point lines and center interference and set position of 3 settings. Okay, so we go into the center core, but we're going to go downshift cross line, screen lines of 3 track lines of high center interference and 3 line position location of 6 over line. That travels its communication to its vortex communication setting in set position. All right, complicated, right? Try to say, what is he drawing? What is this all about? What's this all mean? But this is all done through what? What is this all done through? Frequency. Now, once you stand in the direction of timelines, correlation setting and track interference, you see the face. Boom. See a correlation line interference in the clustrum. Boom. See the correlation line of the shadows and location settings, highest interference, and set location of shoulders and set location. Boom. Right, intelligence. There's always going to be intelligence line settings, especially in platform communications. Direct modification lines, highest interference of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Platforms of 1, 2, 3, and track location. Okay. So being self-aware of what this is, being self-aware of what my hand is doing, 2, the self-awareness of its digital pad. That's the sound it's picking up. You have to tune in and tone out. Tune in, tone out. Tune in, tune out. Right? So it's direct, redirect, direct, redirect. Transmitter, receiving. Transmitter, receiving. See how I change the tone? Right? It's a different rhythm. So every time I right? Sound barrier, right? Picks up positions. It's all in the right angle, left angle, cross angle, center angle. So it's all about understanding a 4-line split, correlation line, track interference, of digital pad, positional lines, of semantics over pi, correlation, and track interference, of clock communication, of center communication. All through digital pad. Being self-aware and awareness of its consciousness of what it is in set location. Its own awareness of you and everybody around you. Okay. So you guys are in line settings now. The test is all based on what you get in provisions of is understand the 125 line sequence. Correlate calculations of 3 tractions, 3 parameters, lines of pi, 3 track provisions. Okay. The center core line center is a platforms of 1, 2, and 3 in line setting. Puts positions of the plasma, screen lines adaptations into pi, 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 and pi. 4 track lines at a 45-degree angle, splits lines of nominal line interference, and 0 gravity is of 1. Travel course lines to track lines of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Says communication 0, 0. Let's add a 1 line 0. Through weather's communication. Now we're coming to hieroglyphics of triangulation, or anything Fibonacci, or anything correlations of question, into percentage of pi. Direct lines of correlation line interference and question mark contraction and direction. All through schematics. Now the core line center has a 0 line rotation, 0 correlation, 0 track line center 3. Direct calculus lines and center lines operation cycles and generation line communications lines of 4 line tractions. Direct calculus lines of waving line cycles and a triangulation splits lines on the 1 cycle. Center line rotation, 0 correlation. 0 can turn into anything, and that's what the team has to get out of. They have to get out of that into the titles and labels of everything. They gotta set themselves free, because the motion line center sets their senses and locations back and setting back to 0. So everything goes back, 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 back. When I say back, 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 that means it's going forward. That's provision not going back. That's provisions that are going forward. So track provisions of the bulk line rotation center and the T reception line screen high position calculation all side high calculation line center travel. Point laser graphs, 3 zeros on trackification of solar sails and track position of center communications. Direct modification, triangulation line condition lines of highest interference and ground locations. Splits lines anomalies of 3 track location provision lines of cycle and a 3 travel and inline rotation cycle of generation. That my equation. All through central calculation, right? All through an algorithm, all through zeros, all through ones. So once you start identifying that, then you understand the process, how this all works through your binaries. Transistors and resistors is a core line center interference and position your cerebrals. 1 split, 2 split, 3 lines anomaly. Okay, sets lines of high position location kaleidoscopes. Travel correlation lines of track line position operation surface and set location. Direct lines of modification split lines anomaly line interference of travel position point lines. Direct calculus lines of highest interference in 1 line rotation in a half pipe of 6, and realms of communication and portals and calculation setting of wormholes and traction. Now, direct and communication lines of highest interference have position of center correlation setting, clock line communication of 1 and position of 2 and 3, and clock lines of 4 track line provision into a diamond core, and line settings of 4-point traction and clock line communication setting, and center position operation surface and track location of measure. Ooh-ah. Okay. So we all have to identify inline center line interference. This is all 125. 3 central calculation, 1, 2, and 5. So team needs to get out of labels and titles and everything, and out of resource. There's no resource of anything of source. Understand that? Calculation line interference. So it's resourceless, timeless, shapeless, and formless. There's no time. There's timeless. That process, your position location travels. I see 1 indicate line interference and 1 line of rotation circle generates line communication setting point lines of track interference high position travels. But sir, this is just a line. Nope, it's not a line. See, that's how you much don't know in position travel line. It's a correlation of the track interference of GOD, geometric operation of design. So it can be anything in position of travel communication. What does it do in travel position operation line calculation? It's a position location line interference. It's okay for the opposite travels. Is its own self-awareness, awareness of consciousness. That's that design. So what is this interaction? What is this interaction? But sir, it's just a 1. You're right, it is a 1. You see what I did? Reverse psychology. Fooled you. You were waiting for me for adding a speech, not realizing this is just 1 now. I'm in control. You're not in control. I'm in control of what I say. You're not in control. I'm in control. So whatever I say is say. Whatever you say is not say. So you're not in control. I'm in control. You understand? So once you understand that, then you understand your binaries, how it comes in at 4 line splits, 3 trackification lines of 4 arrows indicate line condition of point lines of track interference. But sir, this doesn't make any sense. Of course it doesn't make any sense, because you're not using it through frequency. Your body has to tune in. Let's say alpha wave, let's go into beta wave, let's go into a mega wave, and let's go into delta wave. 4 track vision here and a diamond core line screen. Calculating lines of 0 line rotation surface and a flywheel traction. Calculation of a compass line position of water containment center. Track position lines of sonar and line rotation surface. Track communication of 4 line split line communication. Time lock sequence location of timeline is the center. Travel position lines of point lines of graph communication and setting. Want me to go on? So it's really understand how to use the files of communication line that's given to you in set position. How to travel through it is all through correlation and all direction settings. How it frames lines and high calculus setting. So all this is information line cycles that self-awareness and line communication setting, all levels of collaboration line interference. Generals and correlation track interference on balanced communication line and location setting and positional case binary communication lines and high position calculation. Correlating track lines, high center waves, calculation alpha, set lines of delta, positional keys of beta, and line communication alpha. Change communication lines of alpha, change communication lines of beta, communication lines of delta, communication lines of omega, communication lines of zeta, connection lines of gamma, set line communication line interference identifications back to beta, back to position of center, correlation lines of 0, back to lines of 1, back to lines of 3, back to lines of 4, set lines of high center of 6, 6 lines of pi, over line position, set correlations of 1 track line provision, select line communication setting travel. All through self-awareness, awareness of consciousness of what you're doing through frame by frame by frame. Okay, all through track shifts, right? So self-awareness is everything in setting. So what is this in traction? It's not a one, is it? So I say what it is. It has nothing to do with you, but you're not seeing it through perception. You have to see it through its dimension. 4 track line provision. That's what it is. Okay, so what is it? A 3-line connection setting? Windows and a track location. Center core setting, travel position operation line. Perspective. If everybody took perspective, you understand what I'm talking about. Sets lines of 3-track provision, 1, 2, 3 in setting. Okay, core track interference, high position location security lines. Sets communication programs. Direct lines of center, direct lines of center, and a 3-line split lines of 4-track provision lines. Delta, theta, operation cycles, and platform communication lines of setting. All through traction. So you have to take titles and labels out of everything of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. This is not a 2. This is not a 3. This is not a 4. This is not a 5. Right? So this is now a 1. This is now a 4. This is now a 7. And this is now a 3. Okay? So once you understand that, then you understand the geometrics of letters, numbers, and shapes to your binaries. Binary gets much easier in line communication setting. So 1 can basically equal a house. 1 equals a house. Interesting, right? So it's a fly split lines anomaly, and track line position lines of cycles, 1, 2, 3. 4 track line provision lines of 5, set location flux, cross position line travels, point lines of high interference, satellite communication setting into a 4-way split correlation line communication setting in travel position operation cycles, and crop circles is set design in a UFO line rotation surface and traction. Ooh, wow. Now, how does 1 equals line a house? How does 1 equals lines a UFO? How do you split a nominate 4-way track? What's an equal correlation line attraction? What's a crop circle line in setting? What is a sonar interference type position travel? What's a point track interference and positional program? What's an allocated position type for location? And go on and on and on and on and on, guys. Get out titles and labels. All right. So once you understand that, then you identify your pi position of setting, set location of core. Right there, boom, right? Center core setting and travels. Point lines attractions, direct signals modification. See, boom, right? Center core lines, all levels, intelligence, right? Sets correlation line interference and position, intelligence. See how it formulates? Coordinates, travel lines, brain communication lines, centers, cloud coordinates, center track interference, point lines of track position, its calculation. Intelligence. See? See how it goes in line setting? You got to see it in all formations, how it splits lines of communications. See it in all correlation lines, I call them correlation. See? That's how you got to get position travel. So it's no difference in sending line communication as position programs, how it directs the signals in this setting, how it directs the signal in this setting, set locations, how it directs the signal in this location. Let's move the correlations and attractions. I can allocate time frames, change communication, direct the signals modification. You are in control of modification setting, right? You are in control of the modification location of setting. You are in modification control of your computer setting, right? So you got to see it on a 4-way split and track communication programs. Directs the modification high calculus and close up. Sets location line condition setting to all setting. Sets communication line screen high interference and travel. So platforms, communication, cross line, screen line, centers, a 4-track line, provision lines, of cycles generation. Okay, communicates line screens. Let's allocate time frame. Center course setting and travel. Point lines of graphs. Center communication. Everything is indicated to a 4-way split in travel. Point lines of graph interference. Sets lines of core and track provision line setting. Sets communication. Let's flick the switch. Run the track interference. Direct modification lines. Generate the screen lines adaptation to its position as program. So in that course setting comes in signals modification. Back in traction. Okay. Showing exactly what it can do in its own time frequency. All through a 4-way split lines anomaly in a track line condition, right? But it's important you understand how to get balanced with your settings and travel, right? Getting collaboration of its digital line screen in position on 1-track location, 3 triangulation split lines of correlation, but you got to see it in all ways and forms. You got to see it in all ways and forms, okay? So it's really interesting when you get balanced with this set location, right? It's amazing when you understand what you're connected to from far and close. Okay. So identification line setting allocates time frames. See, sets location different lines of measure, scales its balanced communication setting, bring it back in traction. Your finger lines coordinate calculations to its clocking. So let's allocate time frames. All right, so we get a center core lines of splits. Let's allocate time frames. Change correlation lines of highest interference. Now you guys are going to go through time panels into mapping sequence lines of 2 reception line screens. We're going to change the core settings in 1 line split lines of 2 tractions, right? So we're going to set it this way in travel, and then we're going to set it this way in travel. So what you guys have to understand is the position of travel in a 4-line setting. So on Monday, the cubicle line screen is going to be going 4 different directions. 4 different directions. 4 different directions in set locations. All right? A house. So what is 1 equals lines of correlations of a house, right? Setting communication setting. Setting communication line setting. Setting communication, see? Short circuit, right? Number 5 alive. Sets location. Pattern correlation lines of equal line, equal line, equal line. See? Never see it in 1 cycle. Always see it in a 4-way calculations. Direct modification lines of high calculations. Point lines of tractions. Direct modification lines. Sets communication setting of program. In its communication. So you have to see it in a 4-way line screen, okay? Not just in a 1-line picture frame. Okay, so when we line screen a high-end TV receptor, it's all about understanding line screens. So we're going to position lines of 4-track link provision, line cycles, 1 box location, center correlation lines, see in a 4-way line, right? Sets position, 2 lines, 3 lines, and 4-track locations. Again, and again, right? So the eye receptors changes coordinates and tracks in position of its operation surface. Again, different image line screen is set location, and again, okay? So everything works for you. Nothing works against you in setting. And then you come into all levels of dot locations. Track location position, track location position, track location position. So the more you come into line setting, you can see the point graphs. See the point graph calculations? Now that measures lines of scales in a T reception line, crosses line signals in a box, sets line communication to the box location, right? So you get in position, you scan out, and you see the correlation of its mapping sequence. Bring it in back in line centers of its radar, track its communication interference, point track interference, see the point graph lines of box location center to travels. Okay, so this inner lines of correlation and attractions. That's eye receptor line directions. That's point lines graphs. Let's allocate time frames. We're going to set up a map and sequence of transits in line communication that's binary. So you have to understand how a T receptor aligns its communication to its map and sequence. So it's line connection mapping lines and sets lines of correlation. Start at the bottom line, rotation surface. The transit lines, communication lines like Pac-Man, trying to understand its dimension going through doors. So it's calculates line interference, a 3-track line provision of cycles. Now the correlation line of the map line sets lines into 3 triangulation splits. Okay, let's allocate back and center. Got to change the default lines into 3 triangulation line split locations. Puts lines of communications. All right, so we have Pac-Man here. Okay, there's Pac-Man, right? So Pac-Man is trying to understand the dimensional door line screens. Okay, can't go through here lines, so it's got to go this way, right? So I'm just showing you exactly how to get in position travel, setting location this way. This is how you guys are going to go through communication area align center. Oh, we got a false narrative, so we can't go that way. So we have to backtrack and go this way and set locations and set calculation, right? So it's all about following the maze of the map lines of a T-reception line screen set to travel lines. So Pac-Man comes in line calculates setting of travel, points, lines, and graphs. Inner line calculates setting of the ghost. That's over here, attraction and set location. There's the ghost, right? Ghosts come in attractions. Now, they can't go through the line, so they disappear and reappear in position of travel. There's the ghost right here, right? So you're here. So you have to go through the dimensional door, right? That's you in tractions, right? Up line signals, and you come here, up position. This is you in traction now in set calculations, right? So from here, it's pretty amazing on a computer frame, right? From here to here. So the ghost keeps following you, and every time it's line signal, another ghost comes in and track locations, and another ghost comes in and track locations, right? So it's trying to block you in, right? That's the resistors. So what Pac-Man is doing is going through frame lines, and it's correlating its track division. It's trying to align its setting to get to the next level of the game, okay? So if you understand that, you bring in a line setting location, that's it, is map and sequence. All set position travel. See the face? See the face? Right? It's confused, right? It's like, right? So once you see the map, everything comes on and you continue playing the game. Okay? All right, so I think you guys are getting a better understanding where it comes into the game section, screen lines, the TV section lines, the TV frame, position, location, snowy guard calculations. So I want to give you guys the example of how that works with Pac-Man. Right? You know, right? So really get into that sound barrier, correlation line interference, and position locations. You're in the line center interference. To understand that through metric meters, scale, correlation lines, you are Pac-Man trying to go to the levels of the game. All right. So you can't really avoid the ghost. You have to be strategic and get out of the game. That's how you have to understand. So when you come across that, Pac-Man's here and set locations, right? So it's just going through the levels of the game. It's going through the levels of the game. That's all it's doing. All right. That's all it's doing. Okay, trying to get the next level of the game. Okay, that's going to help you understand more lines, how Pac-Man is positioned, but you have to use the mind of strategy. It helps you in all ways, informs how to really get in that position location setting. All right, especially when you get at core track line provision lines and cycles and communication line interference. That's core track interference, point lines of track interference, line position location settings, track point lines attractions, indirect communication of its position, all of the attraction. Okay. So, in line conditions, high interference. Setting line communication, 1 line, 3 line, and track location. Provision lines of cycles, 1, 2, 3, and 4 line sonar. Direct lines, modification lines, the highest interference, and travel position point graphs. Direct calculation line interference, 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations. Direct modification lines of 1 cycle, and travel lines of 4 line provision lines of pi and track location. So, you have to really understand how this all works, guys. All through calculation line condition setting. Playing Pac-Man in a game in set location of travel and set calculation. Okay? So that's exactly what it is. That's the cube and that's you in position of center. So you just have to understand the levels of the game, right? Next level. Next level. Next level. And next level. Okay? So that's what the cube is. Now, if you understand that through a T reception line and snowy graph interference, you have lacing correlation lines attractions. Lacing lines at 2, lacing lines at 3. Now, the line center is a 45-degree angle, splits lines anomaly, and track line provision, crisscross communication setting to travel. Okay? Setting communication, direct lines modification, travel correlation lines, attract line positions calculation. Okay? See the intelligence? What is that? The ghost. Right? Correlation line interference, here's Pac-Man attraction, calculation, right at the bottom. Right, but there's a ghost, right? So the ghost is overriding the system. So if the ghosts are here, right, And your Pac-Man here, what are you going to do, right? You can't get out of the game. So you got to use your strategic locations to get out of line connections, right? Backtrack, forward, back, line, center, high interference, go through dimension line interference. Now, when you come in position of the point lines attractions, eat that in sending calculations, right? The ghosts go, you know, you pick it up in position, right? So the ghosts disappear in line calculation setting, backtrack, line, center interference, high position of its game. Sets communication to Pac-Man, sets lines and position location, next level of the game interaction. Next level of the game interaction, okay? So that's how it works, location of your game, all through provision. So once you understand the calculation of the thought line, each pixelation graph correlation has 1, 2, 3. Let's start with 4. Cross line can say setting track lines. So your TV lines, set location ground line surfaces, set location of travels, point lines of graph. Okay? Says communication line interference, portal communication coming in, center correlation lines of Pac-Man, says communication. Right? Level 1, right? All right. So the ghosts come in here and set it. Okay. So you can't avoid something. Okay. So you have to be the mind of strategic. You have to understand how to get to the next level of the game, because it's the process of you understanding your yin and yang. So set communication lines, open settings, Pac-Man goes through line communication through dimensional lines. So it goes in here. Now it's back up here and set position. So you're using your streak of mind to move settings, right? So it goes, it's here, is very confused, right? Backtracks, backtracks, backtracks. Oh, it's over here now, set location, right? That's all it is, using your mind to strategic location setting to travel. Now, the energetic line screen is really understand how to formulate through its line communication of the game itself. Like understanding, are you self-aware of the levels of the game that you're in? Let's go into 4 lines of waves. That's 1 line setting lines of 2 track location of 3 lines of block location and setting. Okay, this is the next level of the game. It's set location. All right. So you come in settings. This is you trying to understand what's going on, right? So you're walking. You know, you're in the holographic line grounds, scoreless interactions, right? And all of a sudden something comes in. Okay, so you have to really use your strategic mind in that set location. You can't avoid these things, right? Because you're talking about the yin equals lines of yang. Okay, you can't live without both. You need both. So center core line interference, using the mind itself, puts you in position. Okay, so line connects setting, open the portal, you go through the portal and set locations, right? David is line center and line connects next level of the game. Okay, X2000 goes out through the game, right? So you get position. There's the intelligence, and a 4-way split. So it's a 4-track division lines to 8 set lines of highest center interference of 10 and track location 11 and 12. So each level of the game gets you into high lines of high interference, how to form that system and travel. So it gets much easier if you understand your body, how it uses its position on levels of platforms. Let's say another line communication setting. There's a platform, right? Okay, so this is another level of the game, right? So it's really understanding traction, right? So here you are in center of the game. This is you in the sim position. Okay. So again, you have to understand is using the mind of conception. Now there's no doors, right? So you have to invent the doors to go through the door. And you go through to the next level of the game. Okay. That's all it is. So it's knowing how to use the mind and concept. And once you use the mind and concept, things get much easier in the levels of the game. Okay. That's going to help you know what's informs, especially when you guys go through your TV reception screens. Now, on Monday, you guys are going to go through TV frame lines. That's blocking line communication setting. Start with 2024 lines, screen lines, high interference, back in location for Christ, correlation lines of nothingness. Now we get a fourth line track interference into awareness of its consciousness, sending a high interference likeness setting, likeness of nanos. Nanos on the second lines of awareness, location setting, and conscious location setting. NNAC, right? So correlation line interference, sets correlation lines of track lines, 4 track line provision lines of cycles, So we got 1, 2, that's N line and box, A line and triangulation, A line and triangulation, and C line and box locations. Knowing exactly how to coordinate communication lines and split lines anomalies and platforms of communication and ground lines. It's always start with the ground communication, right? Platforms of 1 in position of 2 and 3 puts everything to dimensional line setting and position the next game level. Game level, game. Doesn't matter. What matters is getting out of the game and travel. Getting out of the game and travel. Getting out of the game and travel. Okay? Getting out of the game through travel, right? So once you understand that, it gets much easier to understand the process through the game, right? Because it's all levels of the game, but it's the game of yourself that you understand. It's about balancing your imagination. It's about balancing your thought of your imagination. It's about balancing you of your body through its self-awareness of its imagination. Because what you're looking at is just a game. And then you realize, wow, I have to really understand how to use my GOD. The geometrics, the operation of design, guys. That's all it is. 5-track revision of box line, box line, box line, box line, box line, box line. Right? And once you recognize that, then you understand the platforms of 24, 48, 72. In set position. Right? So you are the geometrics of the operation of its design through a solar sail and track location position that balances you in the core line interference that puts you all lines at all communication with the game centers and track position of point lines of graph communication of your earth and track line setting of an operation system of set design. Ooh, ah. There's your earth. Okay? There's the eccentric calculations. There's the graph communication of point lines of graphs inside the game. So the actual earth is in position to measure and scale and balance through its ecosystem. Energy, collaboration of its operation, right? Okay. You started with your egos, right? Take the ego line interference. You can't get rid of the ego. You have to balance it out. Because what is the ego? Ego. Ego equals matrix. Okay. Position lines. Change the energy lines. Change the ground communications. Change the operation lines, the ground lines of C. Change the C communication operation, right? Energy collaboration of operation. Your ecosystem. Ego, eco, right? So you can't get rid of the ego because it's the yang. Ego equals the yang in position lines of grounds, powers, and space, right? So ego, it's interesting, blow you guys out of the water again in memory. So there's an ego of the ground of you, there's an ego of the powers of you, and there's an ego of the space of you got to get balanced with, okay? Center core lines of crop circle, center correlation of balance lines, and center correlation lines of space. You got to get balanced to that, especially with the team lines, because you got a 3-track divisions and cycle line communication sending and 3 travels, 3 earth line rotations. Flux capacitor and line screens into 3 set locations in a 5-line split. 6 lines of correlation lines inhibitors in set position of pi. See the intelligence line communication with antenna? 3-line communications, right? Eccentric lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in set location. Intelligence. Now, correlation high interference, clustrum, communication of clustrum, communication of clustrum. What is an interact line communication setting? Light force line communication to position, right? So you understand the balance of the ego line correlates the track lines of its communication setting in platforms of 1, 2, 3 in position out through the door of its matrix. Out through its door of its matrix of the 24 platform, 48, 72, 144. Set in position lines of platforms and ground lines, highest interference and position locations. Go through the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres to get out of the game faster. And a 3-track division. So once you understand that, you understand the core lines to its ecosystem. You can't get rid of the ego because it's the yang. You got to balance it out through alteration, through space and time, right? So if you understand the Y lines, then you equal lines the H line. Int line equals lines of the E line. Sets communication to ground line. Sets communication lines of operation setting in position locations, all levels. So what are you putting together in position lines of G, correlating lines of O, and set position lines highest interference, Ground centers lines of D, sets lines of D, center line communication of D, directions, division, and dimension. Sets lines communication of GOD equals lines of everything and nothing and position of between. So once you understand that, you center core lines calculate setting your flywheel, track location divisions, center core lines and ground lines operation line connection setting programs, and your magnetic highway information line screen high interference of center communication of position. All through center calculations, right? And then you work with the inner cycle lines of your Earth, 3 central lines of the Earth. Sets communication lines of 3 loops and 3 patterns, 3 correlates and track lines of binaries and traction. Now, directing lines of platforms, let's allocate time frames. 3 lines of measure, 6 lines of correlation of data and setting, sets communication ground centers into operation surface and triangulation of transits. Now, we open the transit line screen. Now, when you do that, it's the divots that travels this communication of point lines of graphs. Center core lines of 1 line setting, 0 gravity position of point lines of graphs. Sets communication line interference. We split lines anomalies and 4 lines of graph and communication. Directs lines of split lines of 2 patterns, 1 singularly, 1 pattern. Directs lines of communication lines of center communication. Directs modification lines of earth and rotation surface and tractions. Directs lines of communication line setting and all levels. We go into the blue. Calculate the lines of water. And then we correlate the track interference and we allocate time frames. We go into correlation lines of brown. Sets lines of the earth tones and set location of your settings. And we go in line communication to the granary, which is your forestry. Set the lines of communication, the line setting position of earth and traction. Hooah! Okay? All through provision lines of cycles and tractions, guys, and directions, right? All right, so how do I get you guys to understand these line screens? To understand a TV, it's really understand the VR line rotation. Let's go through infinity line screens. We'll go through infinity, right? And we're all going to go through pattern lines of 4 lines of correlations of dockings and travels. But see it on a 4-way line, right? So I need you guys to understand the coordinates of position north, east, west, and south all at once. It is split lines of seconds in a 1 train line square. 4 lines of signals in open sequence and up 2 panels of correlation lines of tractions, directions, right? Setting calculation lines of north, east, west, south, and east and travel. Okay? Direct lines of correlation line condition of center lines of center communication. Direct lines of center line rotations of orbiting and position of probing and line setting all travel at position location of face recognition. Now the platforms communicates the line screens, add lines of 3 lines, record the track interference and line conditions of 4 line cycles, generate the screen lines in a 4 line split line communication cycles, generate communication lines of east line, west line, correlation lines, and north line cycles and communication. Direct calculates line interference, sets platforms, left side of coloration lines of green line, operation circles, line communication setting, and face recognition. Time sequence calculates line interference, let's change the coloration line interference, orange correlation lines of track interference, balanced communication line screen interference, and travel positional point interactions. So I'm adding frame by frame by frame by frame, right? So frame correlation lines calculate line set. Let's go in the gold. Travel lines of 1, 2, and 3 track locations. Allocate time frames and line centers of platforms, high center interference, and E correlation. Direct modification line center interference. Let's put this location of blue travels. Direct lines, modification lines, Fibonacci line, rotation circles, and travel position, high center interference, travel position point graphs. So what is 3? You understand why you guys have to get out of the chakra system and formation lines of 0 gravity into 1, 2, and 3 through measure of Vega and rotation cycles, digital frame communication of programs through GOD and mechanism lines of letters, numbers, shapes, and binaries, correlations of transit resistors. Understand your capacity over your communication setting and position all levels and correlation lines of tractions. You've got to get out of that settings. So your chakra system is what? All colors, all at once, right? So 3 is not orange, it's blue. Don't want you to get confused now. You're leaving the line screen and position out of the 114 of structure. You're coming to high correlation lines of track lines and high center interference and directions, which is taking you guys out of titles and labels of everything in track locations, right? There's not a 14 line screen. There's not a 7 line provision. It's not 44 and 29 minutes in travel. It's 60,000 line connections of travel. There's no clocking and setting. It's me through binary. It's me through program. It's me through calculation. It's me through setting. It's me through operation. I'm in control. I'm in control. I'm in control. To all calculations, right? And that's what you guys have to understand: the digital formation screen lines, the coloration lines, and transformation screen interference, and your transition verification, your pi. Understand your truth narratives to your false narratives. If you have a red line sequence and a blue line, that's a Fibonacci equals lines of 3. Okay? 3 is blue. But wait a minute. 3 is green. But wait a minute. 3 is black. Okay? So I think you're getting an understanding now. Okay, so we got a red line. 3 is line communication setting. 4 different colors, communication lines at 3. What is 3 equals lines? GOD. 3 equals lines, GOD. 3 equals lines, GOD. So the 3 can change anything to colors, line screen, high interference, high position. You got to get out of the type of the lines, highest interference, highest travel location, one color. Okay? 3 is all this. 3 central lines of the grounds, 3 central lines of the powers, 3 central location atmospheres of space. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Right? Correlate calculation of black, blue, green, or position of red. Hooah. Done. All right, so that's very interesting, General. So you're saying that I have to get out of titles and labels of 114 line screen high interference in one color. Yep. That's the way you guys are going to really understand the calculations of your pi, your correlation lines of track lines, your test reviews and evaluations, how it comes in all information to your setting and travels, right? So, sir, are you saying that 5 is now equals lines of correlation lines of red in track location? 5 is this now? Yep. Sir, are you saying that 6 is lines of this now in set location? Yep. Sir, are you saying that 7 is equal lines of the same color as red? Yep. You got to get at titles and labels of your chakras now. You got to formulate the mixture patterns. If you ever took chemistry, you understand how to blend all 12 lines and rainbow graph screen lines in one cycle, one traction, one color. It's one color you come into, but all colors come into one cycle. All chakras come into one color, all color in position. No color, all color. So you have to really understand how to use it through timeless, shapeless, and formless, and motionless. All right? So it's important you understand that graph communication line interference, because when you're in position lines high calculation setting, the hieroglyphics of the T reception line communication is coming in tractions. Now that allocates time frames. Let's go and track communication to its positional location and coloration line centers and coloration. Now line calculation setting. Okay? 4-way splits, sets communications. Let's go through that calculation. Cross signals. This is a TV. Okay? So each color is never the same color. Okay, this is orange, and this is orange. So 3 cycles in this applications, right? So we got to provisionalize the cycle line communication setting into goals, right? So now this is gold. This is gold, this is gold, right? So it's constantly changing. So the metric meters comes in a 12-line split line and 3-line correlation setting track lines. Sets communications back and center, 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 back and center. Center communication line interference. Now, in line communication setting, you take all lines of titles and label location setting, because you guys are going to be in the line communication setting after your communication test, review, and evaluation. Put you in line center high interference, line communication setting to nothingness to everything out of position. Nothingness of everything and mass of everything. All right, so correlates to track interference, timeless, shapeless, formless, to motionless. Once you get into senseless, then you get position of smell. Color has smell. That's next in your lines of list, line communication measure. All right, so we correlate the track interference. We take the 12-line foundation graph communication lines. All calculate modify line interference, track position, point line graph communicate steady high interference location of center communication line center. Direct modification line setting high operation cycles. So once you understand that, check this out. 12 cycles equals lines, all same color. 12 equals lines are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Boom. All the same color. What is that? Track location in the throat. I think we're starting to connect now. So, sir, are you saying that if I had a 12 equals lines and line connections, I can add purple line? Yep. Purple now. Woo! So, sir, are you saying that I can change line communication lines to centers like green now? Yep. But it's still through 12. Right? So 12 is no title label. 12 is no longer the divinity. It's not the divine. It's all coloration and nothing and everything all between. So once you understand the equal line coordinates setting and track interference, there's no positional location above a space, no positional location line condition below a space, location line centers, calculate the line interference, flywheel track location, all generation line communication, yin and yang, and process communication all at once. All right. All right. So you have to get out of titles and you have to get out of labels. All right. So That's going to be a lot more confusing for the team now because you're so focused on your chakra systems and what it is. You got to let that go because its own geometric operative design. You guys are coming into motionless and senseless. So once you come into that, it basically puts everything into your external sensory perceptions. So it aligns its communication, inner-line calculation settings. So it's like an inner valve that changes communication of vibration, sets lines of communication of tone settings, allocate time frame interference, point lines of tracking of calculation, line set locations. So lines to line center interference, black line, one line equals lines into 12, 1 equals 12, right? 12 line signals, line setting, 3 tracking provisions, and 3 cycles. Into pi attraction, right? All through set location. Okay. So you have to get out of that now, guys. Okay. The chakra system is changing patterns, change the correlation lines, calculation, frequency, pattern, locations. On Monday, you understand what that means because you'll be going very fast on each. So each time frame that you go through, you're never going to be in the same color. You're going to be track lines at 12 DNA, but that process you 114 of where you are at vision lines with correlating line communication 130 in traction. Okay. So now you understand position programs, 1 line, 3 lines, second correlation track communication of 0 operation. Pattern correlation of platform communication lines back to 0, track location 0 equals lines of gravity. Sets location of 0 equals lines of gravity. Sets communication lines of 0 equals lines of ozone. Sets communication 1 line interference line position of 222 track location, 111 line rotation interference at 222 track location. 3 communication lines, 3 balance line rotation, center line communication and position programs. Platforms communication line 2448, 72144 track location of 3 line connection. Okay. All right. So you have to understand how to use that correlation lines of tracks now, because the team has to really understand how to use the pi in all levels of high calculations, point lines of tractions here, and center communication of growth. That's what you're coming into now. That center core is a system. You got to balance out your flywheels more now. You don't want to offline this position, not where you are in time sequence. Okay. That offline is communication, sets lines of the portals, and center lines the earth. Setting of space, center core line setting, center core and ground setting. Sets communication 4 clocking system, metric meters, correlation balance, communication lines, high center interference, mystical line communication in this matrix of design. Okay? But you see the face? See the face? See the eyes? Always intelligence, always intelligence. Always has intelligence. There's the clustrum, there's the neck, there's the shoulders, the set design. Always intelligence, always in the frame. Always intelligence, always in frame. Why is there intelligence always in frame? Because it's ether face. You are protecting everything so nothing comes in your space and set location. Hoo-ah. Now, if you formulate it through line screen, then you understand position. Spider-Man. Okay. So there's nothing you can do through Marvel. There's nothing you can do through that line communication. You are your superhero of yourself, but you got your face. So you get a center core lines in the face, sets communications, right? So you're protecting everything through your data, your highways, correlation, track interference, so nothing comes in your position. Nothing comes in your position locations because you're protecting yourself from you. So if you understand that, then you understand this in traction, how that all works. Grounds, powers, and atmospheres. All right, so we get a 3-track division lines of 4, lines of high center interference, and 7 bodies of water. Now, really understand how this all works now because the coloration of the pathogens is changing lines of position, 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 changes center core lines of position. Okay, so you're always going to have 3 ground lines that crop circles now. It's all set calculation, right? 2 panels in calculation line setting. 1 way in track location, 1 way in interference, DNA track location, right? What's in center? Intelligence. See? Intelligence. Again, Spider-Man. Dun, 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 dun. Spider-Man. Let's add the webs. There's Spider-Man. Yay! There he is. He's coming in. Yay! Spider-Man. Boom. Right? So I can use the same equation or I can use a different Marvel. You guys have to pay attention because I'm telling you right now, everything's coming in face recognition of timelines of high center interference. Thought equals face recognition of time, seal location, line connection, all levels of time shift that's informs communication, motion location, of sensitive communication back at 0. Now, once you understand how to use that calculation line settings in positional travel lines, point lines of graph, communication line, 3-line positional program, location line, highest interference, location of pi, track case like a baseball diamond, hitting the ball. Wow, look at that. Da, 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 home run. Yay! Home run. Right? All right, so you have to have fun with it with your chakra settings and really recognize the correlation setting interference, because now position is changing all lines of the game, right? So you got a 1-line and a 3-line rotation, 1 ground centers and a 3-line rotation surface, and 0 correlation. Okay, so you have to use line communication setting your torical fields, your eyes, like revert, data location, setting travel, the eye receptor calculation, travel communication, pi calculations. Direct modification line screens, set position location. Monday, track provision lines will be 344,000. 3 central line communication setting, instruction, right? That's the center core of the Earth. It's going to be attraction. Hoo-ah! Center core lines, 3 flywheels attractions, balance lines, center correlation lines, space line communication, and setting travel. Okay? So the center core of the Earth stays in the center line of communications, guys. It's you understanding the grounds in position to its pi and set location. Split the anomalies. There's a timestamp right there. Track provision lines, correlation setting lines, and high center interference, because the team has to understand the connection of the cerebral, the mystical cortex, and its matrix cortex, the design at a higher level of the chakras. So don't get in representation. Don't be dormant with colors now, okay? Because 3 is no longer orange. Blue is no longer blue. And that's what you're coming into. So you're coming in mixture patterns of your 12 EMA settings in your 114 to 130 chakra locations. Right, through equation setting. Okay. All right, so that's what you guys have to come into that information to a screen line, because it allocates your time frame locations. And your chakras are reaching higher levels of waves, central systems, correlation setting, travel communication, toning, tuning line rotations, frequency patterns, correlation travels, outline connections, unification course, line setting, high interference, graph calculation screen, line position, computer frames, direct line frames, communication, clockless, timeless, shiftless, formless, motionless, senseless. Hoo-ah, right? So 3 is no longer orange, it's black. Wait a minute, 3 is no longer orange, so its position locations, now it's red. Wait a minute, 3 is no longer orange, it's green, and set lines in a 3-track provision. 3 calculation modifications, all through 3. And what's in the center correlation line connection? 6 and 9. What's the position line interference? Set location affinity 8. All right, so whoa, it's a lot to take in, guys. You have to really understand the correlation lines of track now, because it measures, and the correlation line in position to your measured communication setting and calculation to its system is all levels of travel. 333 in different colors. Okay? Especially for you, Jess, because you're the portals and stargates. So you have to understand metric patterns into defaults, copy and paste, enabled. Changing communication settings back in track line and high interference into plasmesium line screens that allocates your walls and defense lines as screen location adaptation. So it's about changing the inventories at a faster speed, because it's going too fast, right? Nothing is ever the same color, but it's all color. Nothing is the same color because it's going too fast. To slow that down, you got to see the color, see the direction, see the schematic, see the pi. You've got to control your space through time. That's time. Okay? It's an hourglass. You understand? This is your hourglass. Okay? And then you flip it. Okay? And then you flip it. Then you flip it. You see? So you see it in a 4-way cycle. And that's what the flow is coming into your chakras now. Your chakras are trying to get directions of a continuous flow screen. So it's all line center, right? So that's 4 central line communication, colors, line interference, line condition, 1 trillion frames per second per pi per this location line communication setting, 1,400,000 lines, earth line rotation line calculation setting, intra position point line graph communications. So that's allocate time frames, correlation, coloration, line condition, half pipe, position, high calculation, line interference, 3/4 pipes, 1.5, 2/3 line position, quarter line and rotation, pi generation, screen lines, power generation, line position, programs, and how to calculate line connections, and pi generation, screen location. Hoo-ah, all through time. Okay? Timeless, shapeless, and formless, motionless, and senseless, all through correlation. Hoo-ah! All right. It's a lot to take in. It's like, woo, I need to watch this video again. So once you understand that, it gets much easier in position. So you got to get out of frame of your 12 DNAs now, color. Okay. So 0 ground, okay, is no longer what it is. Okay. Your throat is no longer blue. Okay. So this is a test for you guys to understand the coloration of mixtures. If you ever took chemistry, it's all about blending 3 colors on a line screen. Your position of your sun has infinite color. Infinite color. It can use all colors at once, or it can just use one color. But it's a continuous force that keeps going and going and going. Your mapping sequence, your Merkaba, your tesseract, or anything, all calculated lines and nuclear score communication setting has to understand the direct location. You got to get out your titles, you got to get out of dormants, and you got to get out your labels and line condition setting, how you see the formation location in color original communication line, positional DNA chart location line, and that interference, and transitional operational line cycles, generation, crane location, position. That's the only way you can understand your calculations, all through traction, right? So there's not a 16-line panel, and there's not a 7-wave program, but there is bracket communication on 167. You see how that works? So I put the 16 equals lines of 7, separated that, added to a crop circle. Now it's 167. So there's so much you can do, but you have to understand the correlations of space and time through the coloration lines of your chakras. And we're going to understand that through time frame. It's going to get much easier on Monday when you see it in a 4-wave panel of northwest, south, and east. So it's understanding how to change the color in its inventory line screen, high position travel point line centers into a ring graph screen, setting lines and communication setting position of its program, and add anything position of travel in its point line graph line communication to its position. Okay. So I really want you guys to get out of dormants of your foundations of your chakras now. Okay, because you're reaching higher levels of the mind. You got to get out of that line connection setting. So once you get to certain lines of highest interference in position locations, and all your towers of communications are not in your right ear anymore. It's in his left. So he's got a direct lines communication lines at right ear and left ear and left ear and right ear, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth set locations. Travel point lines attractions, direct lines sending high interference, 2-2 track location, 3 communication, 2-2-2 Pluto communication center travel. And so we all have to understand how Heather has to use correlation lines of attraction, how it colorates the pathogens, how she used her data ops and screen locations to her settings, her inhibitors and locations, all levels of Metatron. Metatron is coming all formations, all colors, all at once. So to get you guys into scale and balance, you have to understand the direct and redirect line communication setting to its chemistry communication setting. You can add 12,000 color lines of communication in one color. There's nothing you can't do through the mind, but the balance of the correlation line gets you out of dormants, how you see your chakra systems. So it's not going to be measure and correlation line interference. After Monday, all coloration line condition setting is going to be gone. So there's not going to be indicated anything through chakras now. It's going to merge in one cycle, one line center going forward, and nothing else in position. It's a continuous force in communication setting, all travel. Okay, you've got to get out of that through equation. All right, so it's not 19 line centers in position. It's 26,000 line settings and set locations. It doesn't have to be 19. It's 28,000. Okay, there's 28,000 volumes here, but you see 19. That's your problem. So that's the position where you can't be dormant anymore. You know, understand the correlation lines of time, sequence, location of patterns. So once you get a better understanding, then you understand your phase direction of time sequence. Okay, in line communication to its position, its program, location, its setting, phase recognition. Everything is a phase. So what is coming in line communication setting? Chakras are coming into what? Its own self-awareness of its awareness of consciousness of what? Setting communication, phase recognition. Okay, that's it, done. All right, now it's a lot to take in. Woo! We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there, right? So, for example, you see generalized space-time, right? But what you don't understand is all rainbows. You used to see one color. I see rainbows now. And it's blinking, right? The lion is not one color. It's all color, right? You got to get out of that dormant coloration pattern. How you see through each other line connected to its setting. That dormant sets you free, get you off position lines and balance your settings into your flywheel and track lines in the same traction and same division of force, direction, of time continuum. Put you in position of going forward in set locations. Okay? Because nothing goes back in equation. Because there's nothing there. If I look back, there's nothing there. Right? If I go back, if there's something there, I'm bringing that forward now. Now it's my determination what I do next with that setting. Right? That's all it is. So that's how you balance out the continuous force and going in the same direction. Right? But the mechanism is truly how to come into that, into all colorations all at once. Because if you understand your chakras, not only are they getting out of the dormants of their system, but they're finally coming into its self-awareness, okay, of its setting, okay, to its awareness of its consciousness of its own system of color. It's very powerful. You've got to get out of that to color now. Especially the team. Species, you have to focus on the color, right? So there's a difference between the spacing line and the trackification because it's all lines to its avatar and its sim, where you have to come into that modification to your soul, to your oversoul. So the connection of the soul is through telepathy. The connection to the mind is its oversoul. You put that together, you got yin and yang. Okay? Yin and yang, people. That's the process. Okay? So you're going to have to watch this video again. All right? So it's the game of yourself trying to understand you through color. It's the game of yourself trying to understand you through tune and tone through color. So that's where we're coming into high levels of sensitivity, but higher line position, location, and track lines, how to use the external of the sensory perception and how to use the internal and position of perception through program. How to use that all line, all communication setting, have a continuous force of going forward and nothing going back. Because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. It's you are the center operation. Because you can morph into anything. And also, you're not titling, you're not labeling, you're not putting this, you're not putting specifics. You know, it's like, well, the analytical line calculates setting at one color line path, but the track provisions are off. Where is the question lines of screens? What am I even talking about if I don't understand myself? So to understand yourself is to understand the motivation of yourself, which is self-awareness of self. So once you understand that, then you understand the awareness of the consciousness of self. And once you understand that, then you understand the nothing of its awareness of its consciousness of itself. And once you understand that, then you understand the mass of nothing is massive equation. Ooh, wow. And that's all it is, right? It's a lot to take in, okay? But I need the species to really focus on just on the colors, okay? The team to focus off color into all color all at once now, okay? That's a whole new level, okay, with the team, all right? That's a process where you have to get ground control. I know what you guys are going to say, Major Tom. So once you get a process, it gets much easier to understand that and position. And you realize when you go higher and higher, higher, the galaxies are wind factors, line communications, oscillation, wind line cycles, high calculated position of the programs. Your connections of your ears are no longer right and left. It's left and right, or it's left and left, or it's right and right. Okay, Hemdall? So that's a process that Hendo's coming in. And he has to understand that through ground control, through his towers, realizing where he is in his space of time now. Is he in space of time or is he in spaceless of time? Is he in time of space or is he in timeless of space? So it's the provision cycles of how you use your earth, because your earth is this way, okay, this way, okay, in position of this way, 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 in position of this way. It's applications. All at once. Okay? All right. See you in 5.